A good nerve Shabbos Kodesh. Parshas Balak. Tavshinayim Ches 5778 from Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh. This parsha seemingly comes as a curveball to us. You follow. We've been dealing with Moshe Rabbeinu. We've been dealing with different people. Out of the blue comes a parsha, seemingly, of a king. His name is Balak. From Bereshis till Bamidbar, we haven't heard his name, really. And seems a new player on the playing field, and we dedicate a parsha to his name. What did he do? Who was he? What was he about? Balak, the Psukim are very clear what he was about and what his intentions were. Intentions were to decimate, wipe out Klal Yisrael. He understands physically that the Jewish nation, he sees, everybody heard, the entire world heard about the Jewish nation leaving Mitzrayim, how God took them out with the Nisim, the 10 Makkos, how Hashem has brought them through the Yam Suf, and they already got the Torah, Har Sinai. He understands that physically, Amalek was badly beaten by Klal Yisrael. He understands that this is more than a physical war, and he sends his messengers to bring in Bilam. He's a prophet, he's a Navi. He understands, he can communicate with God, and he says, we need to have all hands on deck. We need, from a spiritual angle as well, to knock these people out. Bilam's reluctant. He says, I'm not going to be able to do it. Balak's persistent. Bilam talks to Rebbeinu Shalom again. And the Rebbeinu Shalom says, you can go, but you can only do what I tell you to do. Ends up giving brachas, bringing karbonis. They brought karbonis. He ends up giving brachas to Klal Yisrael. Balak's furious. And Bilam says, I don't know what you want from me. I told you, whatever the Rebbeinu Shalom puts in my mouth, that's what's going to happen. You can give me all the money in the world. I can't do more than what the Rebbeinu Shalom lets. But, you want advice? I'll give you a piece of advice. The piece of advice is, this God, these people, he is Soine Zima. He despises and he hates immorality. You want to get them? You want to destroy them? You have to get the God to be upset at them. How are you going to do that? You're going to send in the woman to entice them, to seduce them to immorality. They do that. There's a Jewish leader that comes and he's enticed and he's going full force in front of the people. Pinchas, the grandson of Aaron HaKohen, didn't have kahuna yet. He was born after Aaron and his children got the kahuna. He didn't have kahuna yet. Maybe this is why, because in the future he'd have to carry out a mission that would, in essence, make him Tamei Meis. And if he was a Kohen, I don't know, if he had the kedusha of the kahuna. But a separate story. Pinchas comes and he stabs the two, ending a magefa, a plague that wiped out 24,000 people from Klal Yisrael. In a nutshell, that is Parshas Balak, and it seems like the plot out of a movie. Chas v'shalom, to even consider that, but seemingly, if we just look at the outset, the psukim, it seems like the plot of a very strange story out of nowhere. It doesn't seem to fit the flow. The next parsha, Parshas Balak, is okay after Pinchas went and did what he did. So now we have a parsha about Pinchas. But where's it coming from? What possesses this man Balak? Where did he come from? And what's possessing him to have this mission to destroy Klal Yisrael? And why specifically does he bring in this guy Bilam? To answer this, we're going to take a deep dive into some of the depths, the storyline in Klal Yisrael this week, this parsha, this Shabbos. If Mashiach doesn't come before Shabbos, we start with famously known the 3 weeks where we learn 3 haftarahs consecutively of Musar, of Teichacha, rebuke, beseeching Klal Yisrael and warning Klal Yisrael to do tshuva before the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed. Very hard to have Torahs to process. Yet this Shabbos is also part of another set of three parshas. It's part of the set of Chukas Balak Pinchas, which on the outset may not seem so connected. And like we said, Balak and Pinchas maybe seem a little more connected, but if we go just a little bit below the surface, we'll see that the connection in these 3 parshas is a connection that transcends and spans millennia, transcends time. It spans from starting, we don't know exactly when, and it goes till the end of generations. What do I mean by that? And how does that answer what possesses Balak? Last week's parsha, the end of last week's parsha, we learn about Oig, Melech HaBashan, and Moshe Rabbeinu is scared to take on Oig because of the schusim of Oig, because Oig went to tell Avram about Lot being destroyed. Again, why was Oig coming to tell Avram this? Not because he had any good, beautiful intentions in mind. His intentions were Avram Avinu should die, and he can get with Sarah Imenu. That was his intention. Yet the schus in this story, Moshe Rabbeinu is scared of. To tell you that it's a very big schus, and this Oig must have had a tremendous schus. We don't know much about him. We know a few things about him. We know that he was held on to the teva. We know that he came to tell Avram Avinu about the story with Lot and the 4 kings, the 5 kings, whatever was going on over there. And we know that Moshe Rabbeinu killed him. He's living many, many years, and the only way he could have done that was with some kind of schusim. Okay. So, Oig is from before the Mabel. We don't know exactly from how long before. But he held on to the Teva during the Mabul. This giant. Who is Balak? Balak is Melech Moav. Right? What's the pasuk say? Right at the beginning of the parasha. Vayar Balak ben Tzipor is Kalashur. So, right? Vayogar Moav. Okay. Balak ben Tzipor Melech Moav Ba'isahi. Pasuk Perik Chav Beis pasuk. Yeah. He was the king of Moav. That's who he was. Who was Moav? Where did Moav come from? Moav came from a relationship between Lot and his daughter. After Sodom is destroyed, and they thought there was no one left in the world, and Lot's daughters get him drunk, and they think they're going to repopulate the world now. This Oig that saved Lot was just killed by Moshe Rabbeinu. Balak knows that Lot was his grandfather. Now, if the man, this giant, who's been around for 1,000 years, maybe more, probably much more, has been around for 1,000 years, or more, 1,500 years, was killed, the man that saved Gramps, he's petrified and scared for his life. That's what's the obsession to destroy Klal Yisrael. Who does he bring in? Bilam. Who's Bilam? So it's actually machlokes between three different midrashim. It's a machlokes in Rashi in Sanhedrin. Kuf Hey tells us that it's a Targum. The Targum Yonason says that Lavan Arami is Bilam. The Gemara in Sanhedrin Kuf Hey tells us that that Lavan is Bilam. The Gemara in Sanhedrin tells us that Bilam is a son of Lavan, and there is a Zohar that says that Lavan is the father of Be'or, who's the father of Bilam. So we see there's definitely a clear connection between Lavan and Bilam. Whether Lavan is Bilam, or the father of Bilam, or the grandfather of Bilam, there's a connection. Remember in the Haggadah, say Leman Mag Vikesh Lavan Arami, right? And we say Vihisha Amda Lave Seinu, right? Shebechol Dor Vador Oimdim Aleinu Lechal Seinu. In every generation, they're fighting us. And here's another time in history. Lavan wanted to destroy Yaakov, and here's another time where it's going to happen with Bilam and Balak. But so Balak, the grandson of Lot, calls the grandson or the son or Bilam or Lavan himself, and says, "Our cousins are coming to kill us. They killed that the one who saved my gramps. They killed that Lot. They killed that Ike who saved Lot. We're doomed." We need to do whatever we could. But Bilam has a deeper understanding. He says it's not so simple. Because they're obviously being guided by Hashem. How does Bilam know this? He has a Messiah from Lavan. The word he is Lavan. He remembers when Yaakov was on the fields over there, and his fields were doing so much better when he had someone who had a connection with Hashem working those fields. Because of those hashpais. He understands. He's a Navi, and he understands that when Hashem wants these people to succeed, you're not going to get in the way. There's nothing you can do. We could try. But he understands that Elikim Shalei Lusaine Zima. And he gives them this eitzah, which leads us to the Pinchas, who goes and stabs and ends the eitzah of the Cosby and the Zimri that we find out in Parshas Pinchas. $24,000 people die. 24,000 people die, and Pinchas becomes a kohen. He gets his kahuna. Ultimately, he ends up becoming Eliyahu Navi, who's going to introduce us to Balak's grandson. Who's Balak's grandson? Balak's grandson is going to be Mashiach ben David. Balak's granddaughter, and Balak is the Melech Amayav. He has a granddaughter named Rus, who is a Moabite princess. He's a granddaughter of Balak, who goes back with her mother-in-law Naomi, ends up with Boaz, her great-grandson David HaMelech, has a lineage that's going to lead to Mashiach Tzidkenu. And Eliyahu Navi is going to introduce us to him then. We spoke a different time about how the 24,000 is connected to the 24,000 of Shechem that were killed out by Shimon and Levi, and the 24,000 Talmidim of Rebbe Akiva, and about we went through the 24,000, but the parsha here is transcending time, because we go let's further down the line in history, because before then the schus of but how did Balak end up with a granddaughter, Rus? What? How was he zeichet to that? How was he zeichet that a parsha should be named for him? He wanted to destroy Klal Yisrael. So he brought 42 karbanos to Hashem. That's what happened. Tremendous chusim in these karbanos. Whether he wanted to what his intentions were not the point here. Because ultimately he brought these karbanos, and there was a schus. There's a schus in it. Right? When Oig had ulterior motives to save light, Moshe Rabbeinu is scared of that schus. You see a tremendous power here in the schus. Because he brought these karbanos, he was zeiche to a Rus. And Elikim Shalei Lusaine Zima. Rus had a sister. Her name was Arpa. What happened to her? The Gemara says that the night she left Naomi, she was with 100 men. For 10 years, she lives with Naomi, and then she goes and does that the next night. It's how does that happen? Further down in history, there's a David HaMelech and there's a Goliath. Goliath for 40 days is tormenting the Jewish people. He's tormenting and he's cursing them out and he's cursing out Hashem. And so David comes face to face with a little slingshot and throws a rock at his head, hits him in the head, knocks him down. This giant Goliath. Who was Goliath's mother? The Gemara says that because of the tears she cried, 4 tears she cried with Naomi, she was like 4 giants. One of them was Goliath. Who was Goliath's father? Chassam Sefer tells us that Shimshon, when he was locked up, they had him on a grind mill, and the Chassam Sefer understands this to mean that since Shimshon had tremendous, he was a gibar, Shimshon ha-gibar, a tremendous kayach, that the Plishti woman would come to him because they wanted his genes. One of those women was Arpa, and conceived and had a child. Name was Goliath. Goliath, right? Now, Kilyon was Jewish. He didn't marry a non-Jewish woman. She was Megayer. So Goliath turns out, according to Chassam Sefer, that he has a Jewish father and a Jewish mother. He's a Yid. Yet he's filled with this hate, but not hate for it's hate for himself. It's hate on himself. He can't live with himself because admitting he's living like a plishti, but admitting that Hashem is right means that he's wrong, and he can't live with that. Which is why he's constantly knocking Hashem and cursing out Hashem. Because he grew up with an Arpa. Why was he able to do 40 days of this? How was he able to do it that? Obviously connected to 40 days of Kabbalah Torah, but Arpa took 40 steps with Naomi. And during those 40 steps, which seems like a very short distance, those 40 steps were, Arpa was faced with, do I walk with Naomi, leave everything behind? Or do I take Naomi's advice and just go back? And she goes back, but she can't live with herself. And she ends up doing what Elikim Shalelu Seine Zima. She's such an animal. She can't live with herself. She can't numb the fact that she just left a future of Naomi, which she didn't know what would happen. But David HaMelech's meeting up with Goliath again is not a new meeting. They're in essence first cousins, like 3 times removed, or something like that. Not they weren't such strangers to each other. Different upbringing, but they were part of the same gene pool. Because it's bechol dar vador. It's in every generation. It's from Goliath, Balak, Lavan. It's in every generation they come at us. It's hidden right there. Sefer Bamidbar, and we know there's no coincidences. How it falls out like before, in middle of 3 weeks of when we're faced with the going into, again, if Mashiach doesn't come before that, into the period of mourning, of Avelus, of the Churban, of the Golus that we're in. And it's there, and it's connected on the deepest levels. It's Hashem saying, before you go even into those 3 weeks, you got to remember this little parsha here of Balak. It seems it came out of nowhere. That because of this Balak, he brought a few karbanas. He did a few schusim. And because of those schusim, he was zeichet to a granddaughter Rus. Ultimately to a grandson, David HaMelech, to Mashiach Tzidkenu. Because of a few karbanas that were not intentional. It was a shalei lishma. As Chazal learn out, we learn from Balak of do it even shalei lishma. Do avodas Hashem shalei lishma for the wrong reasons. Just do the avodas Hashem. That's why we feel that the timing, obviously, we know everything in Klal Yisrael, timing is the crucial. And there's nothing that just happenstance. And the fact that it comes right before going into that 3 weeks is already a little bit of the nechama. To know, going in knowing that we're part of something much bigger that transcends time. A story that ultimately leads to the Mashiach, the answer to our problems in everywhere that we are in, be it people have problems with raising their children, people have financial problems, physical problems, health problems. The answer to those problems is lying right there in that Parshas Balak, right beneath the surface. The Mashiach Tzidkenu is sitting in Parshas Balak. In the same Balak that wants to destroy Klal Yisrael, his grandson's going to save him. His grandson's going to come from, Mashiach's going to come from him. The biggest joke on him. Because of this little schus. I have to take out of here, I believe, my humble opinion, 2 things. Number one, like we were saying, it's the silver lining. Going in, it's a little bit of the nechama before, is that the Mashiach's waiting for us right here. A little bit of the Musar in there, of Elikim, Shalelu Sene Zima, it's a morality. He wants us to be faithful to him. not to the ways of Moav, of the promiscuity, just immorality. We have to be faithful to ourselves, be honest with ourselves, and also to never, ever, ever underestimate the power of the schusim in the mitzvahs we do, even unintentionally. And we think how low, I'm so far. I've done the worst things. Never, ever underestimate. Whatever you've done. But never underestimate the schusim that you do have. And how special you are for those schusim. And you have to realize that and take that and hold yourself up. And you really have to look yourself up at the end of the day and say, what were the good things I've done today? What were the good things I did today? And then look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm a person that does this. These are the good things I do. How can I sink to such low levels and do the other things, which we don't need to think about what we did. We know what we did. I'm above that. These chusim are huge. Even when it's harder, even more so. We have no idea how great these chusim are. Moshe Rabbeinu was petrified to get involved with Oig. And Balak understood that if Oig with his chusim was destroyed, then he's in trouble. Because they understood the power of chusim in a way. If we can only tap in, even if we don't see it, we can understand that there is a power in it. If we can live our lives with that, hopefully we won't have to fast Sunday. We won't have to fast. We won't have to go through the 3 weeks of Avelos. All that. And Shavas V'Tamas and Tisha B'Av will be Nes Hapech. The Yavim Tovim, the Yehudim, the Simcha, the Mashiach Tzekenu, the Meher, the Yameinu. When we come full circle with Pinchas coming to introduce us to the Balak's grandson, to the Mashiach, to the lineage of Balak, to Mashiach, very soon, in a way of a v'nahapachu, that the Balak that wanted to destroy us, his grandson is going to bring us to Mashiach, bring us home, closer to Rebbeinu Shalom, the ultimate Geula. Amen. Have a Heilig Aziz Shabbos. As always, any questions, comments, or feedback, you can leave them in the comment section below.